welcome back to the conversation. We're here for another exciting week talking about stuff that you sometimes think about but don't always talk about. I've got the gang here with me. Greg Kirkland.
Welcome back.
The Jeffrey Fauntleroy.
Namaste.
And sitting in this week for DeMarcus Smith is John Kelsey Stevens. Welcome to the conversation.
Glad to see the people. Glad to see you.
God bless you.
It's going to be that kind of a show, as you can see. Look, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to get right into it. So look, we lost a lot of celebrities in the last couple of years since the pandemic. So what celebrity has impacted you the most or shocked you the most that's died like since the pandemic? Greg?
I had given a lot of thought to that question, and as many people as I can name, you know who I thought about? You know I'm a gospel singer. I thought about Rance Allen.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We lost
Yeah.
Rance.
Yeah.
We lost it.
That was a big, that was a big
Come on
loss.
here. That was a big
Yeah.
loss, man.
Yeah.
I was laying in the bed
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
and almost fell out the bed.
Wow.
Wow.
John?
It helped you, it hurt you that much?
It hurt me, Doc.
What about you, John?
Well, for me, when Debo got up out of here, Tiny,
Tiny left.
y'all know that from Friday. When Debo got up out of here, wow, that was tough.
Doc, if the pandemic could take Debo.
That's when I knew
It could get in.
COVID was real. That's when I knew. Wow.
Jeff?
Wow.
It's true, man.
Nothing else. It's all about Debo.
I would have to say Chadwick Boseman.
Oh, yes.
It was sad, man. He was right on top of his career.
True
and,
king. True king.
True king, yeah, man. And to see, and I'm glad that he was able to, people were able to understand what was going on, because if you remember when he was sick, you know, a lot of
Yeah, a lot of
things
bad
that were
press.
going on in the internet about, hey, what's going on with him? He doesn't look well. Well, the man was sick, you know, but he never.
Nobody knew.
He never said anything, and he performed at the top of his ability. So, yeah, that shocked me and kind of upset me, man.
Yeah, I can understand that. I'm gonna have to go with Sidney Poitier.
Oh,
just
yeah.
a legend. And again,
Yeah.
not that it's so much surprising, but you know, you
Yeah.
just lose those legends
Absolutely.
that you know.
Yeah, legend.
You know,
Yeah.
and I think now you know the kind of mantle was passed, you know, to Denzel.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's the
That's
baton
a heavy
gets
mantle
passed
to
him,
carry,
so,
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we ready to get the conversation started?
Let's go,
All right,
man.
let's do it.
Let's go,
All right,
man.
let's do it. Let's talk about voting rights. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Voting rights. Let's start with that. This bill that's out there, and the political landscape. Midterm elections coming up. Let's talk about it, Fauntleroy.
Well,
voting rights.
You know, there's so much. When you talk about voting rights, of course, we need that. We don't need an act. We need an actual bill. But with this voting rights bill, what I believe a lot of people need to do is actually look at it and see what the controversy is all about. And many of us know that when they come up with a bill, there's always some pork in there, what they call. You know, some pet project from a senior senator who wants a bridge built in an area that probably does 2 cars a month. But this is his area, and they want to name it after some major fundraiser. So you got a lot of those projects in there that I think people are debating. But for the most part, man, I can't even believe here in 2022 that we're still trying to establish a federal mandate to be able to freely have an election. Now, there's some portions in there that I think, you know, a lot of people go back and forth with. Myself, I don't have a problem with being asked for my identification. I never forget. I give you this quick story real quick. My son turned the age to vote. I made it a big ceremony, you know what I mean? So rites of passage. I'm going with my son to vote.
Gotcha.
We get there, and they said he had voted already.
Wow.
So somebody had voted
Wow.
with his name.
Wow.
Man, just tore me apart, man, because this was big. This is my son. This is his first time voting. You know what I mean? And then he saw we had to put in a provisional ballot, and then we had to go to the Board of Commissioners and all this kind of stuff, Board of Election. So, you know, I understand why you need identification. But the other part of that is your 88-year-old aunt who's in a nursing home, whom nobody has. That's a whole nother thing. So what do you do about her?
Right.
So I see both,
Right.
but let's get together and finally get this done, because what you're saying is we're going to continue to make it difficult. And then you got the gerrymandering, where you are redistricting the districts so that it bodes well for the Republican Party. And why you want to do that? Why can't we just have fair elections?
But you know why?
I do know why. I do know why. So again, we are up against the fight that we have fought since civil rights. It's just exhausting sometimes, man.
It is exhausting. You know,
That's good.
I think that I have to ask myself the same question. You know, here we are in 2022.
Yeah.
You know, and I wasn't alive in the time where our grandparents,
Yeah.
you know, marched and went to jail.
Yeah.
You know, huh?
You wasn't alive?
Don't do this. Don't. Ooh, so glad I'm on camera. I'm on camera. I'm on camera.
My apologies.
Bless your life.
I'm a guest.
And act like it. But nah, you know, it's just you know, we read about it, we hear about it, things of that sort. But to us, my generation, until this point now, when we have gotten the national recognition that the voting rights has gotten, we thought that things were
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
We thought that things were finally accomplished. We
Yeah.
thought that we had passed this point.
Yeah.
You know, we thought that we had gotten past this, and now here we are. We realize that we really haven't.
Yeah.
You know.
And one of the things that this is coming from the other way a little bit. What do you say about all of this that y'all talking about, people trying to prevent people from voting, yet we still have so many of us that will not go
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going to go
and
with
cast
this.
a vote?
You have to, again, start with education. But it's not necessarily education for the educated. You have to go and talk to those people who are the shade tree mechanics, those who are still eligible to vote, but just have not exercised their right to vote.
That's
So
a
I
great
think
point.
that's the best place to start the education,
Yeah.
because they think, and as we've heard all of our lives, you know, my vote doesn't count,
Yes.
or it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
And especially in our local elections, that's where the
Right.
most
Yeah.
change is
Decisions
going to
are
come
made.
from.
Yeah.
So I think we have to start with the uneducated, who are not educated people, and I don't mean that in a bad
No,
way.
I-
Right.
No,
Right.
that
Right.
makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
No,
And just
you're 100% correct.
And you have to get people to understand that point, why it's important, because you can't change the people that are in power unless you have enough votes
Right.
to change the people in power. And you're right.
And we saw that.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
with the education, what he's talking about is exactly right. You got to let them know this is why we can't do this, or this is why this took place.
All
What's
made
the
a difference.
difference
All made a difference.
of why you can't do this, or why you have to do this?
Yeah.
But to go as far as to say you can't pass our water or some
Oh.
ships or something, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
to me, that's
a reach.
asinine.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So let's move a little different into a different arena, the political landscape altogether. Do you see us, the parties, getting any closer together?
No. I unfortunately, there's a blatant disrespect for the institution in Washington, D.C. You know, when Donald Trump ran, one of the things I said to a person was, you know what, I'm not worried about him because Washington has a built-in system that will correct all of the craziness. Well, look, that he brought up people who turned the system inside from the inside
Yeah, absolutely.
into another direction.
Sure.
So I think we're getting further and further away from reality. And we have awakened a group of people who don't want the truth to be told.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They think that it's ignorance. It's ignorance. It's the browning of America
Absolutely.
that people are ignorant to. They go off without an education of knowing about the other person.
Yeah.
Without even, I mean, they are so easily swayed by what they hear. You listen to some of the comments. I think one of the funniest things, this bit where they make a lie,
Right.
and
right.
people say, "Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, did you hear it? Donald Trump turned Air Force One to red, green, and black." And people say, "Oh yeah, I heard about that." What do you think about it? Oh, I couldn't believe it.
Make up a whole story.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you that naive?
Yeah.
But we're dealing with a naive nation, and then social media.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Is
You're
out
dealing
there.
with we attend social media university nowadays. Nowadays,
Uneducated.
uneducated. It's like if it's on the internet, I can believe it.
Right.
That's the thought process.
Right.
And so what happens is that as soon as somebody looks up something, Wikipedia, or if they look
Yeah.
up something,
Yeah.
or if they see it on social media,
Yeah.
they take it as fact. Everything. It has influenced
Everything.
religion, it has influenced politics, it's influenced, our everyday way of life. And so, not to get away from your question, but I do think that is a major part of it.
It is.
I think that people have gotten to the point.
Disinformation.
It's disinformation. Not even misinformation.
Right.
It's
Disinformation.
disinformation.
I saw a show about this where it's a person, it's brain hacks, they call it, nudging. A guy actually wrote a book.
Wow.
It's called The Nudge,
Wow.
where they do a brain hack. They put information out there, and if they see it enough, it's
That's why
subliminal
it's the gospel.
seduction.
Excuse the thought.
I think there are not really a lot of, and I vote Democrat most of the time, but there is not even a lot of Democrats out there that I can look at that you can just be proud of about the Republican Party and some of the things they're doing. But again, the Democrats, again, and moving towards Joe Biden. Let's talk about our current
Ron,
president.
can I say something about that real quick?
Oh,
Let me say this. I no longer am dealing with Democrat, Republican, Independent. I'm dealing with the person and what they represent.
Yeah, but usually they represent the ideals of one of those parties. Usually they represent the ideas of one of those parties.
Generally speaking.
Again, when you look at in the House with the Voting Rights Act, they vote
Yeah.
party lines,
Yeah.
straight down party lines. So you mean to tell me that there's not one Democrat who saw some validity in
One
the Republicans' way and
Yeah.
vice versa?
Yeah.
So I think, again, I don't see anybody that's impressing me right now. And I would say this, I can't say that I'm all impressed with our current administration.
No.
And I know when the first season, you brought up, Fauntleroy, what Biden was going to do.
Oh, you gonna
after,
put this on me?
Absolutely.
Oh, you gonna put this on me?
Well, you wearing the hat, brother.
You wearing the hat.
It's-
You talked about
This is
Biden
a
bringing the
Somalian
country
crown.
together.
This crown comes from Somalia.
Okay, yes,
I
sir.
heard
Okay.
I heard something else about that crime.
Okay.
But I'm gonna
Okay.
leave it in.
Well, let's stay with politics. and
Yes,
not
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, what kind of job is our current administration doing?
Yeah, I was in it with not to cut you off, John, but I was in it with Jeff in the first season. I agreed. I felt like President Biden was just getting in, and he was up against insurmountable obstacles, and he was trying to clean up what the last administration had messed up. And I was giving him a chance, and I'm still trying to give him a chance. But
What has he done?
Wait a minute. When was he elected president?
when
What
was he
year?
elected president? 2021.
2021, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We are 1 month into 20.
So you think we
come
haven't given
on.
him enough time?
No.
Now, here is the hypocrisy of that. Because
When
6 months when Donald Trump was in the office, the rhetoric was different. So let's keep it fair. And again, we cannot keep giving an excuse and a pass
Yeah,
to
but look-
those that we like
But look
because
at the
they're
opposition
different.
that has come up, though. Look I mean, it's been blatant. No.
The Democrats were saying blatant no to Donald Trump.
Nah.
Yes.
He had a pass on
Yes.
stuff.
Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer were from day one against Donald Trump.
Here's my take, and you may be taken slightly aback by this, but I'm gonna put your seatbelt on. I almost subscribe to the thoughts of the shade tree mechanic that I talked about earlier.
Right.
Although I have the education to know that my vote counts,
Totally
it's
agree.
almost what the
Why,
Yeah.
What's the point?
It's a church thing, right?
Yeah.
So I can't.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
What am I voting for?
Uh-huh.
I can cast my vote, and I vote for the person who I think is gonna best represent myself. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, they do whatever they want to do that's expedient for them.
Well, can I tell you what I think it is?
Yeah.
Because see,
you're right.
you represent the sweet couple.
Oh God, yes.
And I think what it is that we elect sweet talkers.
Oh,
That's
wow.
true. I agree with that. I agree.
Yeah.
The talk is good.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and no disrespect, because I have never had to run a country. I've never had to do that. I've never had to run a Fortune 500 company. I've never had to do that. So I don't know what it takes. I can only imagine what it feels like to wake up every morning and say, I have to make decisions that hopefully will bring change.
Absolutely.
And it's going to come against so much opposition. I don't know what that's like. But what I will say is this. What I will say is that what it seems is happening is that the talk and the shucking and the jiving and the dancing and the bouncing and the pearls, you know,
Yeah,
we're not talking
absolutely.
about Joe with this one.
Absolutely.
You feel
Absolutely.
me? And the heels
Absolutely.
and the chucks and the things that it took to win us
hey,
over.
Hey, man, that's a Howard
Man,
graduate.
come on, man.
talking about,
The
man.
things that it took to win us over.
Absolutely.
To
No,
put
but
it in
I
there,
hear you.
and then they get in there, and now what?
That's my question.
Well,
that's my question.
I'm not-
we cannot keep
I'm
giving,
not giving-
Joe Biden
I'm
and
not
Kamala
giving up
Harris
on
a
it yet.
pass
I'm-
because
If-
that's who we wanted. Because again,
Even-
I think what happened was people were so ready for
They-
Donald
they
Trump
were.
to go.
They would have voted anybody in there.
Absolutely. So again, I asked the question.
True.
What has been the big stamp in a year that they put on the
Listen, we've got to vote locally all the way up. We can't always put somebody there and say, okay, now we can get it done. We got to continue to vote people in that will support our president's agenda, who we believe our president should be. We have to vote people in on every level to help their agenda. Now, I'm going to go back to something. I think the voters' remorse is where, when you talk about the shade tree mechanic and all, I think people like that look at, okay, the person won the popular vote that I voted for, but then you got the electoral college that comes into play and says, okay, they won by this amount, but now we're going to put somebody else in there according to the electoral college. And we all know what that's about. You need to do your history on where the electoral college came from and why we have electoral college.
But that wasn't the first time it happened, though.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And I think over time, we have continuously seen that
Right.
take place where you got the popular vote winner
Is one thing.
and then you got the electoral vote winner. So that's voters' remorse. So yeah, there's a lot of people that don't vote, but then when it's time to vote, those of us who can vote, we don't, because we figure, well, we got the president. Now, same way with Barack Obama. We voted him in, but then we went to sleep on the state, county, and local level. Or even when it was time to vote and put some Democrats into the House and the Senate, we slept.
I agree.
Y'all are doing a great job of avoiding my question. Y'all are
Okay.
doing a
What's
great
your-
job
what's
of
your
avoiding
question?
my question.
What's your question?
What has our current administration, y'all have talked about the local level and the
This
electoral
is what I will say. I'll say this.
and all
This is
I'm
what I'll
saying-
say.
We
Okay,
did get the
okay.
infrastructure
Wait a
bill,
minute. What's the
bill
question?
The
passed.
question was, what kind of a job is our current administration doing?
Piss poor.
I think they're on their way to doing well.
Here's okay. This is
No.
what I'll say. This
My
is,
problem-
go ahead.
just a
Go
second.
ahead. Go ahead.
Student loans.
Oh yeah.
You can forget it.
Oh yeah.
Next president, please.
Oh yeah.
So student loans.
You done?
Yeah. Yeah.
They
what-
stood
that's
on
what-
that a lot.
Okay.
And they keep
And they've
passing
done
it off,
nothing.
passing it off. Let me do it.
Yeah.
Let me do it next week. Let me do it
Okay.
next week.
So
keep pushing it off.
So
Now-
you're telling me. So my question was, what have they done? So that's what you're saying.
They have not done.
Okay. Well, that wasn't my
He's-
question. My question was, what have they
Oh,
done?
you want?
Well, no, well,
Yeah,
he
what's
kind of
her
answered your
name?
question
Elizabeth,
because you asked
what's the
how well are
lady's
they doing.
name?
He said piss
Elizabeth?
poor, and it's
Okay,
because
well,
of the student
what
loans.
have they done?
But this is what I'll say. This is what I'll say this, because I do recognize that you can't do everything in a day.
Absolutely.
You can't do that.
Right,
Okay.
Absolutely.
So,
Right.
Agreed,
so in my opinion, some wins have been the increased stimulus, the child tax credit.
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
now, if you ask my wife, we have had knockdown dragouts about this because she feels like those are the things that support the fact that they've been doing a decent job, right? Okay. Now, I actually disagree with that, and the reason why I disagree with that is because her argument is that those are the things that he has done to where Black America shouldn't be as angry as they are.
Okay.
But my defense to that is that, but we not the only ones that got the stimulus and the tax
That's
and the
correct.
child tax
That's
credit.
correct.
So you can't say that was for us.
That's correct.
But as an American, okay, a couple of pros have been the increased stimulus, child tax credit. I could say, he did what he thought was best to try to mandate vaccines.
Right.
And now that has backfired. It didn't go well, and so now he has made it to where we can all have in-home tests because it was impossible to find tests. Now they're going to roll out where government is going to supply everybody with the proper masks because they were saying that we were not wearing the right mask. So that's a win,
Okay.
in my opinion.
Okay.
Those are things that they have done to make positive steps. John's defense to what John is saying is that those things are not necessarily the things that they stood on most that made us say we want to put you in.
Absolutely.
And so we're in a place now where we're saying you got to show me something.
Absolutely.
what
Those are
you
more
told me you was gonna
reactive
do.
instead
No,
of
exactly.
what they
Your
said they were
platform.
going to do.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Those
That
are our
wasn't your
platform
platform.
items that they
Absolutely.
ran on to say,
Absolutely.
this is what's going to happen when we get in office.
And-
according to what they said was going to happen when they got in office, I got to agree with John.
Well, I forget the lady's name. I just saw on some of the talk shows last night. She said that, and she ran for president. I forget her name. Older white lady. I don't know why the name escapes me right now, sir.
You're welcome.
Such an astute gentleman, I must say.
From the Sweet Cup.
My man. She said that he has the authority to wipe out that $50,000 in student loan right away. Right now. He can do that today. I don't know.
So why haven't you?
I don't know.
Okay. Again, that's a lot on
Okay,
this.
so now we probably don't have time, but I got a question for you.
Okay.
All right. So 2024.
Mhm.
If Joe Biden, I pray the man's still alive in Jesus' name. If Joe Biden's still alive, and he runs again 2024, and our previous administration runs again.
Oh, no.
Wow.
What's your question?
My question to you is, which direction would you go?
I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know.
That's interesting.
And I understand
But-
that.
and
I understand that
I
answer.
say that honestly
I
because
understand that answer.
one thing that Jeff said, and I agree with. Although
You can run for
I tend to vote for the person. There have
I
been
agree.
Republicans that I have voted for
I agree with
in the
that.
past.
Absolutely.
I agree
Although
with
I
that.
typically vote Democrat,
I agree
there have been
wholeheartedly.
Republicans that I vote for because, again, what we cannot do is have just more of the same.
Right.
Now, the horrible rhetoric of our former president is abysmal.
Yes.
That racist kind. Again,
Yeah.
I will say this: everything that he did
Yeah.
was not bad.
The Trump
Correct.
tax credits was
Everything
something
he
else.
Now,
did was
now
not
that
bad.
I'm with the, I may vote for it.
So,
Tax credit.
but
Those Trump tax
it
credits
remains to be seen.
Right.
I
That was
don't.
something else,
I
dog.
still have my doubts to whether Joe Biden will run in 2024.
Okay.
Yeah.
So which throws another problem
Yeah.
out there. Who will lead? There also,
Yeah.
again, there may be a dark horse in the Republican Party that emerges that we haven't seen yet.
Gotcha.
Because again, I don't know how
I would vote for
connected
Elizabeth
that
Warren.
everybody is still to Donald Trump. You hear about those 4 or 5 or 6 allies of his that always talking,
Sure.
but you know the Senate and the House are much bigger than those 5 or 6 people. So
Yeah.
be interesting. All right.
Yes,
Again, Next, we're coming back with That's Debatable. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
What's up, everybody? This is Jason Claiborne, and you're tuned in to Tea and Worship with my sister Mignon and my brother Chris and Corey on Hope TV.
Father God, who is Chris?
Did I make up a name?
You said 3 hoes.
I said
You said
three
3
hoes.
people.
Chris, where you at, Chris? Chris. Chris. Let's do it again. Oh my God. What's up, everybody? This is Jason Claiborne, and you're watching Tea and Worship with Mignon and Corey on the Hope TV. All right, I don't know where Chris came from. Bless all the Christians in the world right now.
What I think you need is a socket wrench.
I played JV basketball.
I'm sorry. I don't think it looks right.
This is good, and it's all good, baby.
Is it really all good?
If you love me enough to routinely test your handyman skills, not to mention the strength of your marriage, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/therightseat to make sure I'm in the right car seat.
I'm gonna call my dad.
When will someone know that they need a coach?
If you're looking at your life and you're taking an evaluation of yourself and you're not happy with where you are and you can't seem to come up with what you need to do to become happy, then, you know, a life coach may be that individual that you need. Now, if you're just having a rut, just, you know, a week at a time and you can kind of talk yourself out of it or you get over that, you may not necessarily need a life coach. But when you are really stuck and you've tried this and you tried that and it's not working for you and you just feel like you need more, then I definitely believe that.
Welcome back to the conversation. Look, it's time for That's Debatable. You know, we love it here. We always have something interesting to talk about. Black America, the state of Black America.
Okay.
Are we in a good place? Are we headed in the right direction? Let's start with that. John, Black America, are we in a good place?
Well, I love being black. I do.
That's a good thing.
I do. I think we're getting better, but I think we got a long way to go. And let me give kudos to Jamal Bryant and his team out there for doing the new Black Wall Street. I think that's a great stride in the right direction.
Sure.
But I do think that we need to learn to be more like our Indian friends and our Mexican friends, where we literally,
The whole community.
everybody
Everything.
comes in and that dollar keeps circulating in our community. I think
There it is.
that's the best key.
There it is.
Circulate that money
Now you
in
said
our
something
community.
that's key, and you talked about the Black Wall Street, and I've been there. They've done a nice job with it. And you said that keep that money in our community. It's great, and you're right. Other cultures do a great job of that.
Right.
Do we want only our money in our community? Because
Not only our money, I think we need to keep our money in there, and because everybody loves what we do as a culture anyway. Our music, dancing, our food, all that kind of stuff. Everybody loves that.
Right.
So we put more of our money back in. That will give us more money to make additional products or services with it, which will bring in more outside dollars as well.
Right.
So I think you start inside and it builds up and then it pulls from the outside,
Gotcha.
in my opinion.
Because, and one of the things we notice is, and we talk about from a financial standpoint, is when you look at shopping centers that we don't own. You think about the big suburban shopping centers and malls that are in predominantly white areas.
True.
You will go out there and you will find all cultures in those malls. And we're in Atlanta, so some of the perimeter malls, the Lenox malls, those malls, you will find a melting pot of people there. But when you go to malls or shopping centers that are in the black community, you will not see. You will only find that. So again, how do we get? And I think it's important. What you said is very important. We have to start with keeping that money here. But how do we also, because we need more people And you've got people who design shoes. There's this young shoe designer that Jeff knows. You've got this shoemaker. We don't want us to be his only customer. How does he get out there into the mainstream to where other people can buy his product? So, that start was great, John. It's a great segment.
So you say, where are we? Mm-hmm. I go a little broader. At some point, I believe that we've got to. We talked about education, the importance of education earlier. I believe that we've got to educate our folk to go deeper and become, I always talk like this, I say to become our own producers and stop being consumers. True. To the point where we are on the other side of the table. So if we don't have the stores in those malls, let's own the mall. Let's own the property. Let's talk about the importance of commercial real estate. Rather than just 3 or 4 row homes, gentrification, we say, well, let's buy some of the homes. Okay, that's cool, but let's not forget about commercial real estate. Right. And then let Macy's, Neiman Marcus, all of those folks rent from us. Right. Let's look at that. Let's become producers. Let's do like a Tyler Perry and produce our own films. Right. Have our own people behind the scenes doing the film work and the sound work and all of that. Let's learn about the importance of being behind the scenes and ownership rather than just being seen and heard.
Yeah, well, can I add to that quick? And I don't mean that, but being an entrepreneur myself, I think that it's very important that we still hone in on quality and service.
Yes, sir.
A lot of times, and we've seen it before in the black community, where you go and get something, you don't have the level of service. Now, you may have the price be the same, but your level of service or the quality is not there. Yeah. We have to give the same level of service and quality that our other counterparts give in those areas. Whether you're in that area or you're in the black community, you still need to give that high quality of level of service.
And
we've got to do
absolutely. And I think that, and I think, Jeff, you talk about on a broader level, I think it has to start much smaller because what John is saying is so key. We have to start with the basics as far as when you go to a place, are you open at 9 o'clock when you say you're going to be open? Are you, are your service good? Is your quality there? Because it doesn't matter where you are, what color you are, what nationality you are, if you don't offer great service and a great product. And again, John, great example, as a business owner, as a restaurant owner, I've been to the restaurant, and you walk in, and it's a soul food restaurant. How many soul food restaurants are designed for you to go in and eat? There's not a lot of them that are designed. Most of them are designed where you just go in, grab and go, because it's just not, advertising like that and pleasing. But so you have to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But again, if people want to go, if I want to go have a meal in a nice sit-down place, then I'm going to go somewhere where I know that's what I'm able to do.
Well, you're talking on a service level, and I understand that. And I mean, in every facet. We just talked about voting. We've got to get to the bottom of things to know the facts ourselves and not take on the surface stuff for granted. Like, you see it on the internet. I saw it on the internet. Oh, I saw it on MSNBC. Oh, I saw it on CNN. Okay, but did you take the initiative to do research on the subject yourself? And that's what I believe we got to do. We've got to learn how to get the information and teach others how to go after information themselves so we can learn about it as accurately as we can, so we can be in charge of our own narrative, our own destination, and that's in every aspect: business, real estate, service industry, voting, civics. So we know from the bottom level, from the county, local level, all the way up to the federal level, who's who and who does what. So it's education. And I believe that we've got to get back to education, knowing and having and understanding what our narrative is, and ownership.
What does that look like, though, Jeff? When you say education, that's a big word. That's a broad
That
paint,
means
right?
that all of us,
Where do you start? Again, because when you say education,
everywhere where anybody who has a sphere of influence, the pastor, the corner store owner, the restaurant owner, the teachers, anybody who has any type of spirit at home, at home.
How about start there?
Anybody who has any sphere of influence, let's make sure that we're teaching one another how to get accurate information. One of the things my daughter, she used to come home and say, Miss Castaldi, God rest her soul. Miss Castaldi said that we're supposed to do this, we're supposed to do that. I said, well, why? Well, why do you do it like this? Explain to me. Tell me what you're trying to do, so that she would think for herself. Now, she thought I was arguing, but I'm like, no. I want you to be able to think for yourself, and I want you to be able to grasp this for yourself. Sure. And I want you to think of another way to get the information. Wow. So get underneath of it. Wow. So anybody who has any sphere of influence, let's teach how to get the truth about situations so we're not bamboozled.
Right.
okay. Greg?
My thoughts are that I agree with all that has been said. Entrepreneurship, quality of service, customer service, education. But to go to a question that you asked, you brought up a point of keeping money in the black community is not necessarily enough. From a standpoint of how do we create a service or create a product or create something that doesn't just bring in our community's finances, but the finances of other communities as well, to where everybody supports. Okay, so for me, that says something different. Your question was, where are we as a state of black people, right? Okay, now, to me, there's another ground level that we haven't discussed that we should, and that is crime.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
Because until recently, the reason why Lenox Mall, Phipps Plaza, places like that were melting pots were because people of all cultures felt safe.
Yeah.
Okay. But everybody from all cultures, no shade, they don't feel safe going to Greenbrier Mall and you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Okay. South DeKalb, which is in our own community, things of that sort. So, and part of that is because of safety, crime, the aesthetics of the area.
Yeah.
And so,
And let me ask you this. Well, because it's with that thought.
It's
This
brewing.
is a question.
Yes, sir.
It's a question. Is it, and it relates to Greenbrier and South DeKalb Mall, some of those malls like that. Is it the actual, and again, it's all a matter of statistics, is it the actual crime in the area, or is it the perception?
that's the
That's
point.
what you're going.
That's
Oh,
the
wow.
That's the point.
Oh, wow.
That's the point. And to me, it's both. If I had to be honest,
Okay.
it's both.
I'm interested now.
Because
Oh, wow.
because I love my people, but when I get to certain areas, I'm locking my doors too. I'm making sure that I have my keys with me. I'm making sure that I don't leave anything on the seat that is appealing to somebody. You understand? And now, flip side of that, my family lives in Johns Creek.
Yeah.
But when I get, I'm not doing this with y'all.
That ain't possible.
Oh.
I went to Chattahoochee High School.
Okay.
And when I get to that side of town, I slightly let my guard down.
Yeah.
I'm not as attentive. I'm not as pressed to lock my doors and to make sure I have my stuff, okay? Okay, so for that reason, could it be that we as a people are our own worst enemy in that we don't manage our area well enough to make other cultures feel safe enough to come in and spend their money? Before you get to the customer service, before you get to the educating from the ground up on.
I got to get to the neighborhood.
I got to get to the neighborhood. I got to
That's
feel
good.
comfortable
That's
driving
good.
to the neighborhood.
That's good.
But that's where the education comes in learning about those aesthetics and those things that will attract other people into our neighborhoods. And that's what I mean when I talk about education. Just what you just said. This is the reason why we need to take care of not just owning it, but take care of it to make sure that others feel comfortable coming in. And facing the reality of what it is.
Yeah.
Look, you guys cannot stand out here.
Yeah.
You can't be out here. And I'm calling the police to make sure that we have extra patrols to clean up because I want this to be comfortable for everybody.
Sure.
I have something that I'm selling
Sure.
that I want to sell to everyone.
Because Jeff, think about it. There are certain chains that you don't see in certain neighborhoods.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There are certain brands
Yeah.
that you don't see
Yeah.
in certain neighborhoods.
Right. That's true.
But you will see other things. No shade. You will see a Family Dollar on every corner.
Fast food,
You will see fast food on every
liquor
corner.
stores,
Liquor stores on every corner.
check cashing.
You're gonna see it.
That's true.
You know, but where is the onus on us
Right.
to say we have to manage an area
Right.
that is maintained enough with enough quality of area, not service. You know, then we get to the customer service and the
Yeah, and I think you also too. It goes back to the politic piece earlier. There are some meetings that you can go to that can stop some of these things from coming to your community.
Wow.
So you have to be
Educated.
versed in
Okay.
educated in
Okay.
that area
That's where I
again,
believe.
because you can go to a what kind of meeting is that for a liquor store?
ABC,
Yeah.
zoning,
So
or
you,
ABC.
you can go to
liquor.
those meetings and protest. I don't
Right.
want that in my neighborhood.
Right.
And people have done it with landfills and all this kind
Absolutely.
of stuff all the time.
Yep.
But you have to know when those meetings are.
Right.
You have to be able to go to those government
Right.
sites and know
Right.
what you're doing and what you're looking for.
And that's what I mean by the education.
That's true.
We've got to educate our folks to understand how to improve our neighborhoods, our business districts, how to get involved
Right.
to maintain our community. And you just said something with the landfills. Environmentally, we're getting killed.
Yeah.
Where are the diseases? Where are the runoffs from factories, pollution, runoff, all of this?
Power lines too.
Power lines, they are in poor and minority neighborhoods. So we're being affected environmentally. But who's talking about the efforts of making sure that we don't have environmental racism in our neighborhoods? So the education has to be on all of us to sit down and say whatever sphere of influence that we have, whether it's 2 or 3 at home, in the church, in the community, in the store, wherever it is, listen, let's get involved. Here's some of the things that I go. That's what happened in civil rights. In the civil rights, during the civil rights time, man, you can go to the corner store and get a lesson in civics.
Yeah. Furious Styles.
Well, let me.
Boys in the Hood.
Your point is valid, but let me throw this at you. In a lot of our black communities, black politicians lead. Black politicians are in power.
Oh.
So when you talk about those issues that you're bringing up with, it would make more. It's a valid argument, but it would have more racial disparity to it, or in different if
there were different cultures
if
represented.
there's different culture represented us. But the people who represent us
Look
in
like
our
us.
neighborhood look like us.
Wow.
Well, I think your
so-
main problem with that is you get in this position and then you forget where you
Well,
come
that's
from.
Yeah.
well,
See,
this-
And then
well,
you move to a
well,
Johns
well,
Creek,
well,
and
this
then
is
you
my
don't know what to
Wait.
get.
No,
I didn't mean like, no, I'm just,
But
I didn't mean it like that.
no,
But I'm saying,
but my
you
point,
get a
yeah.
position, you go to Johns Creek, and you forget Decatur.
But this is but my
You know, I
point
agree with
is
Shots
some of
fired.
those. That's my point. Is that a lot of the things that happen are not people that look different than us.
Well, Ron, you said politicians lead. Sometimes they need to be led. And that happens when we say,
by the people?
okay, I'm voting for you, but I'm also
hold
going
you
to be
accountable.
behind you.
You go check the records in a lot of African American areas. You check the voting records, and you have the same city council people
Oh,
and people.
I agree.
On year after
Year
year
after
after
year.
year,
I
they
agree.
have multiple terms. So again,
It's relational.
yeah. So
I
again,
agree.
So again, and some of them live in these areas, or to John's point, they live in a different part of the town where they're not impacted by it. But again, some of this stuff that's happening in our areas is being done by people who look like us, who are getting elected over and over again. And I think John hit it. You get elected, and when you first get elected, you have a goal in mind of of who you're going to be and how you're going to be, and somewhere along the way, things can shift.
So when do we get sick and tired and say, listen, I'm voting for you, but I'm gonna make sure you do what you say what you said you were going to do, and these are the things that we have put forth that we need to see in our communities. Now, the same way with this type of vigor that we got you elected, we will do the same thing to get you out of office.
Yeah, I think the problem is so many people, and we've heard this said, are sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
I keep saying we keep saying, oh, we go hold you accountable,
Yeah.
and yet you still don't do nothing about student loans. You get tired. So then, why should I vote at this point?
Yeah,
So we go back into that rut again. So it's kind of like, you know.
I understand.
Yeah, it does start at that local level, because you're going to have more impact on the local level before you impact that national level. But again, to John's point, you do have to have a belief in these people that are in office. And again, we have a lot of wonderful people in office trying to do a good job, and they're fighting a lot of good causes. But again, if people don't see action happen really fast, people get discouraged and will say, well, nothing's going to happen. And that keeps people from the polls, which, so again, to that point, we're back in the same cycle of people. So it's a lot.
It's tough, man. It's tough. And sometimes you just get tired.
Yeah. So let's change gears for this little bit of time.
Took a lot of energy,
man. Yeah, it is. Let's talk about our culture a little bit. We talk about finance, our culture. Now, to me, our culture, I'm grounded in it, rooted in it. It helps make up who I am, but I don't think I'm limited by it or limited to it. You know what I mean? And so you got rappers like when this white rapper won the Grammy over, I think it was over Kendrick Lamar, and people were in an uproar because somebody that doesn't look like us coming in rapping. Again, Eminem was, back when Eminem was, he was at first really, really mainstream when he was connected to Dr. Dre and some others. So
he was one of us.
He was one of us. But now you have the other, the people that look,
been infiltrated.
And so do y'all see a problem with us preserving our culture? I mean, or is there anything wrong with other people that don't look like us, because they embrace our culture? They don't want to live where we live. They don't. But they want to dress like we dress and sing like we sing.
I don't have a problem if an entertainer, man, is hey, listen, they got a song out. I mean, Adele, she got some good music out. Eminem has some good music out. I mean, there's some folks that I listen to. Shoot, man, it was years before I knew the Average White Band was actually white. You know what I mean? Chicago. All those, man. I mean, they're part of our culture. You heard those songs in the clubs when we were coming up. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Gotcha.
I really don't.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of twofold. It's kind of twofold because we are proud of our culture. We take our culture to heart.
Absolutely.
And we'll go to bat for our culture.
Absolutely.
If we see that it seems like somebody else is coming and trying to mimic our culture.
Oh, yeah.
But as you said, don't want our struggle.
Right.
Don't want our, you know what I'm saying?
That's
they want our
the key right
victories,
there.
but don't want our struggle.
That's the key right
You
there.
see what I'm saying?
That's good.
And so I think that therein is where, as a culture, tries to mimic what we do. Because I have an issue with that. I'll be perfectly honest with you. And for me, it's not a white black thing. It's not a color thing. For me, it's we're magic. I think it's an actor, Jesse. I can't think of his last name, but he made a statement on an awards show one night. He said, we're magic.
Yeah.
And they know we're magic.
Yeah.
And because they know we're magic, we're a threat to an extent, right? And so for that, the thing for me that I find most aggravating is that it goes beyond music and it goes beyond sports a lot of times, but they want our bodies. They want our, you know, now you can get Botox in the lips because you want fuller lips and you want hips
right.
and you want what we have naturally, you know. But then you talk about us. Oh my God, Becky, look at her butt.
Right.
You know, you talk about us,
Right.
Absolutely.
but you want it.
And that's the hypocrisy of it all. Where
That's the issue for me.
want to, again, and I say, I used to talk about people, you know, you go out, people don't like our color, but you go out there at the beach and you lay
Yeah,
out
you
there to
want
get
tan.
tan.
I think
We
the
don't
state-
go lay in the shade to get like.
The statement that he made, though, was so prophetic. They want our victories, but they don't want our struggle.
You know,
That-
even,
that's-
and you're in
that's
the
huge.
television arena,
Yes, sir.
Greg. You have some of the shows that are black shows about black families, and but written by people who don't know what the real
Have no idea.
Yeah.
household looks like. Because again, my household growing up didn't look like some of the households I see on
Absolutely.
on television. I
and
didn't see anybody on television get slapped with a rag or something.
and you never will.
And you
Hot wheel tracks and extension cords.
won't
and
talk,
you
man.
won't see that, you know. But
true.
but
That's
a lot
true.
of times, as you said, it's and this goes back to the education part of it
Yeah.
and ownership part of it.
Yeah.
You know, which applaud Mr. Tyler Perry because
Absolutely.
he takes.
Absolutely.
You know, you can say what you want to say about what he puts
Unapologetically.
out. You can say what you want to say about what he puts out,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, he owns it.
He owns
Yes,
it.
sir.
And
he's
he runs
employing
it.
a lot
and he's
of
employing it.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and I heard Steve Harvey say this recently on his show. He said, I remember when I came out with a show called Me and the Boys. He was on a show called Me and the and he said, you know, he wasn't educated from a standpoint of what was written was what he said.
Yeah.
And he said, I was saying some of the corniest lines, and I knew it wasn't our culture. I
Yeah.
knew it wasn't something that my daddy would have said to us.
Yeah.
He said, but I was so busy trying to say what was on the paper
Yeah.
because that was what was given to me. That was what was put on me. He said, and then no matter how successful that show was, they still canceled it. He said, so for me, that was a learning curve. He said, that was a lesson for me. He said, so when they came out with the Steve Harvey show, he said, I made it the point that I'm going to say what I want to say.
Yeah.
He said, then they turned around and they paired me with Ced the Entertainer. He said, and we said what we wanted to say, and the show went
Blew
through
up.
because
Yeah.
they were being their authentic
I
self.
think that's important that you said that because a lot of people get criticized for some of the roles that they've done early in their careers and things like that. But again, you do sometimes find yourself having to, hey, I've got to play this part
Absolutely.
because I have the bigger
Absolutely.
picture.
Yeah.
Is down the
Absolutely.
road where I'm
Yeah.
trying to get to be an executive producer.
Right.
And if I turn this down,
Absolutely.
you know, and I'm not saying
So
that
I can get
you
on
go
the
out
other
and
side of the
demean
table.
yourself and all that, but again,
Absolutely.
you may know this isn't the best role for me. Even Bill Cosby back in the day, he did a movie he called Leonard Six that was out years
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
He said
Yeah.
worst movie he's ever done.
Yeah.
I mean worst movie. But again, that movie was a stepping stone
Absolutely.
to where what he
Yeah.
ended up becoming in that industry. So
Yeah.
again, look, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. Look again. Thank you, Greg Kirkland, Jeff Fauntleroy.
Yes, sir.
John Kelsey Stevens.
Oh, man.
Look, it's been a great show, so much to talk about.
Yes,
And
sir.
again, stay tuned for our next episode. Next week, we got more great stuff to talk about. We appreciate you joining us right here on The Conversation on the Hope TV. John Kelsey Stevens will be back again with us, sitting in for DeMarcus Smith.
Be back.
And the rest of the gang will be here. Until then, take care of yourself. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Preview.